Hey, everybody, getting in that little vibe of happening. So, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Good to see you. A little CCR going in the background, of which we enjoy so much. So, what's up, everybody? Favor to you all. It's such a beautiful day. I hope it's a good one where you are at, wherever you are, and that your vibes are running high. It's a good way. So I think it says everything is a go. Is everything a go? Let's see. Says it's a go. So we're a go. What's up though, everyone? So good to see everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And well, it's another week. We are going to the end of the year here. It's going quickly. Hey, David Barry, what's up? Hello, Gaia and Paul. Lisa, good to see you. David Castle, much love, brother. Nina the Mystic, hello. Deborah and Elderberry. Let's see, Troy, Scott, another Deborah. Paul Joe, good to see you as well. Martin and Heidi, good to see you as well. Elderberry, Lucky Stone, Francis, how you doing? So Big Al fueling up in Texas. I bet that's a heck of a fuel bill. Al, I'm just guessing. What you put about 500 gallons in that beauty of a beast that you have? Is that about right? Is it 500? I think you got 250 tanks. I don't know. Tell us, Hal. Let us know. And then I guess multiply that by what? I don't know. What's the going rate? Is it over $4? Hard to say. Sam, you'd be right. Hey, Troy. Loretta, hello. Good to see you as well. So got all my stuff here. Let me just say favor over us all. Bosto, if you got a birthday, have a good one, man. Celebrate it. Celebrate it like it's every day. That's what I say. $600 per fill up. Ouch. And what do you average, Al? What, 4 miles? Is that about the average? 4 miles to the gallon? I mean, yeah. $600. Mm-hmm. Ouch. And we want to know why inflation is out of control. But there we go. Hey, Go-Go, what's up? Beloved Abstract, good to see you all out. Hello. Tomorrow's your birthday. All out too. Well, happy birthday. Enjoy it. Seriously. Sending you high vibes. Hey, Kathy, what's up? Good to see you. We're paying at the food stores. Yeah, we're paying all right at the food store, guy. You got that right. It's like, robbery. It's like, okay, all right, here, just take it all, please. But we are prospering. The universe isn't going broke. The universe doesn't know about inflation, but it does know about meeting the need. And I like that. So I continue to say every day when I first wake up, I have favor on my life. Full restoration is upon me. Favor abounds. And, I'm prospering in all that I do. I'm alive. So that's prospering. Hey, Janie, good to see you as well. Eyes to see. Hello, Maria. Good to see you, hon. Scott, this is my story. How are you doing? From Washington State. Well, welcome. Jack Dreaming, I know you're from London, so welcome. Saw Jenny's video, True Divine 44. I love it when she goes on these drives because living here in America, Jenny's a very good driver. She talks and she can drive, and she's even got children in the back seat. So it's amazing the focus of concentration. But it's kind of, it's like going on a trip that you really don't have to be inconvenienced by. I can see exactly what her part of her city looks like, her town. And in a lot of ways, it looks a lot like my town. So Jenny, enjoy it. Hey, Brandy, you're a fine girl. Good to see you. Kimberly, Eric, hello. Good to see you as well. Tonight, on artistfirst.com, 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. here in the Mountain West time zone, the Steiger perspective. Tonight I'm talking about the American gulag. That's what we're being turned into, is a Soviet style gulag. And yeah, over there I can talk a little more freely. Got no constraints, man. It's like it's pirate radio. That's all I can say. Back in the days when and I know I've been here long enough, I experienced it. FM in my lifetime was kind of like the other bandwidth. Americans listened to AM radio, and you could find the weird stuff. You know, the classical music was always on the FM. And then you had that group over in England, the first group that pirated radio off the FM band. And it was that group of individuals, the visionaries, the rebels, those who struck out with no safety net and said, the hell with all of this establishment bullshit. And they said, let the music be played. And the music was played and has never stopped since then. So a little bit of the memory road, and we're living the rest. So seriously, tune in. It's a lot of stuff going on. That's all I got to say. A lot of stuff going on. And it's not all bad. There we go. No, it's not all bad at all. It's actually, some of it's very positive, which tells me that, you know, I'd say there's probably a couple million like-minded spirit beings like us. I mean, there's nearly 8 billion people, or so they say. I often wonder who they're doing the count. Well, if you ever watched my video, what's your birth certificate worth, you would find out how they do the count. But so if there was a couple of million like us, I think that's a reasonable number. You know, and as we come together more and more, and we're coming together in the astral realm, which is the spiritual realm. We're uniting outside the physical. It's happening, folks. I don't know if it's happened before, but it's happening now. How many of you have slept so soundly, but yet feel like you worked all night long? You're out here with the rest of us, and we're getting instruction, and we're learning how to adapt, because actually that's how we're going to be when we really do return from where we came. But I believe that's what's happening. And as we continue to add to our numbers, and the thing about it is that when you're dealing in the astral plane, the spiritual realm, the physical laws, the physical overlords, those that rule this realm, don't over there. And that's their Achilles heel. And as more and more of us become aware that we are truly multidimensional sentient beings, we exist on multiple planes and in multiple realities and multiple timelines. There's this thin main membrane between each one. But that's what's happening, folks. And I don't find this to be that scary. I don't. I mean, if this is how they want to play the game, fine. What I have found about this game is that the rules can be changed. Not completely, but just enough to give you, at times, a tactical advantage. It's like the mamas and the papas says. If I really wanted to say, the radio would never play it. So I have to read between the lines. Okay, far out, man. So tonight is the lunar eclipse here in the northern hemisphere. Not sure if it is down in the Southern Hemisphere or not. Sleep is for children. I'm a child. I'm just going to tell you, I'm a child, man. I may be ancient, but I'm still a child. And the great thing about it is I am also an adult. I'm a child and an adult at the same time. At a gas station and then the supermarket. Well, I would take that metaphorically to mean then, Martin and Heidi, is that give you the energy and then give you the food. You know, that's the way I look at it. So, but anyway, check out the, it's between, I think, 11 West Coast, maybe East Coast time. But check it out. It's going to be a long one. And what else? Going to have Karen, Queen of Quartz. Karen, I have so much of your amethyst all over the place. Just a little stuff. Then we have Marsha. Got all this stuff all around. You got to have that protection. But she really does good work, doesn't she? And when the light just hits this in the right way, wow. I mean, it gets really beautiful work, Marsha. Love it. And finally, here you go. This is for someone. Believe when it's beyond reason to believe. So, in the U.S., the central time zone is 3 a.m. Now, isn't that interesting, Jules? What a perfect portal to be opening. So if it's 3 a.m. on central time, it's 2 a.m. for me, but that's still the opening of a unique portal. Maria, how are you doing? I know you had some surgery. Am I right on that? Well, we're just sending you out some healing as well. So we finished our book. Love this book. Reaching out to the author of this. Going to try to get him on. This is so my wife and I are just kind of reading this in our time together in the evenings, and not consistently, but just bringing it up because there's so much in that book. If that book's all lies, then I'm going to take the inversion of this reality. There's everything is upside down, and what is seen is unseen, and that which is seen cannot be fully seen, but the unseen is always in front of us. This is a truth. It was. So, hey, Twilight Traveler, what's up? Good to see you. Hello, Robert D. How are you, brother? I owe you those email. I got those books. To be candid with you, I've been dealing with other issues that really did require quite the breakthrough. If you ever want to save your text messages like into a PDF or a Word document, you can actually do that now. And if you have a phone that has a lot of stuff stored on it, it takes a long time, about 19 hours to be exact. And then you have to do the conversion. But yeah. Hey, Susie Q, what's up? And good to see you as well. We are waiting for the legions of angels to join our resistance to transhumanism. Twilight Traveler. And upon that fine note, let's get going. And I just want to send encouragement. I know there are a couple amongst us, and hey, we all face it. And all of us need that edifying word, encouragement. Encouragement means to be empowered with courage. Encouragement. And so I just speak courage over all of us. We have angels, for instance. Forgot the angel yesterday, but we have Lee Cabell, this is the angel of intelligence. Bum, 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 bum. Let me get you really seasick. You got to go that. Steiger, we hold the damn thing? Okay. Deus Doctor, I like that. God the Doctor. Patron of administrators, strategists, engineers, architects, scientists, and businessmen and women. Brings the ability to solve the riddles of life and given intellectual power to quickly, finally, to find practical solutions to certain problems. Teaches how to conceptualize and make the right decision. Helps to reach excellence and order in everything. Brings good harvest, both figuratively and literally. Symbol of glory and enlightenment. Fills us with energy to understand the laws of the universe, as above, so below. This character who wrote this, I mean, wasn't it interesting how Lucifer consistently referenced that all the time? And draw conclusions from life lessons based on them. Teaches teach excellence, accuracy, and precision. Brings the great power of judgment. Teaches how to be designers of our future. Well, we could just do a whole hour on that. What if we really became so proficient at our future? Now, here's the thing. If we can determine our own destiny, altering destiny itself, is that fate? And more importantly, if we can do it in this realm, what stops us from doing it in the one that's coming? It seems like the two would be transferable, right? It sounds like the principle works in the spirit realm more so, even more immediate than in the physical realm. There's all this density. Helps us to with long-term plans. Shows how to control our emotions through powers of reason. Provides with great idea and inspirations. Protects from people who manipulate and exploit others. Liberates from squandering and sloppiness. Cures the tendency to bring cures the tendency to being obsessed with success. I like these guys. They're far out, man. And if we exist in the next realm, so do they. All right, let's get into this thing, because part of my show tonight is the fact that we're seeing and witnessing this evolution. Now, some are saying that this is the pinnacle. We are now at the singularity. We're at the precipice of this change. We are already a transhuman being, but apparently the evolution continues. We do not stay the same like this. Our history, the archaeological record, shows that we change. And just because we perceive a 10 or 50,000 years and we say, well, we've seen no noticeable change, doesn't necessarily mean that change isn't taking place. Change can be slow, but it always seems to hit that saturation point where it seems that when it reaches that apex, boom, the thing goes off. And then we really see the rapid change. Hey, Suzanne, how are you doing? Good to see you. So I find it interesting because the book we just left is one of those books, fiction. The author, doesn't make any qualms about it. I love the way that a person could, number one, pull that down and then articulate it in the manner that it was. Excellent. Like the 100th monkey. Yeah. Ain't that the truth, David? Yeah, it really is. I think that's where we are. And so I've come across a number of interesting documents that kind of brings this out as to what's really happening. The Ghost of Transhumanism and the Science of Existence. It says the specter of haunting Europe and the rest of our planet, the spectrum of transhumanism. Its priests and familiars. What are familiars? Spirits. Inhabit some of our most prominent research laboratories, universities, major corporations, and political institutions. And here's just a thought. What if there is a different race of human that control these particular environments? They are born specifically for these jobs because they have there's a mission they're on, and then there's the mission the rest of us are on. And out of these research labs, I guess basically, as one scientist told me, I used to do a lot of investor presentations, and when I was on the East Coast, a lot of times the other companies presenting were biotech companies. So I had a chance to meet their CEOs, their research scientists, and it gave me a broader spectrum of what's really taking place. And as it was told to me, about 5%, maybe a little more, is actually ever really known to the general public. The vast majority of this is stored up and locked up in not so much patents as protected intellectual property. Patents do that, but the problem when you file a patent, you can no longer claim like a trade secret type of deal. Anyway, I digress. So I've known for well over a decade and a half that where the biosciences were at, they were doing advanced human genome experiments. They have been able to take stem cells and actually make them little human brains. In some cases, some of these stem cells actually have faces that they respond to the scientist in the lab. Is that sentience? Is that intelligence? Don't know. But what it is transhumanism. Transhumanism is a negative perspective on human nature coupled with a technoscientific vision of how we should improve. This perspective is best recognized by the superstitious beliefs in science as a savior and a distant contempt for our human nature, our fragility, our mortality, our sentience, our self-aware, and our embodied sense of who we are as distinct from a what we are. Transhumanists confound emotionality with irrationality, dormant potential with stupidity, and disability with dispensability. And as a result of this confusion, they promote and push a future that blindly heralds ubiquitously wired, genetically optimized, computing-led societies in which supposedly fallible humans are manipulated and enhanced by an invisible, presumably controllable, and more optimal robot-driven machinery called the next stage of ostensible evolution for humanity. And it's happening. We are at the crossroads, and I think the jury's coming in. I don't know. It may still be deliberating as to which of these paths we're going. If you look at what's happening in the Silicon Valley, you look at what's happening in China, Russia, India, Britain, Japan. I can just go through all these countries. The goal is to be able to capture the human essence, the spirit. Maybe you can call it the soul, but I believe it's the spirit that they're really after. This tells me that there is a dark mind at work here that is unified in its many fractal components. In other words, it would be an individual human scientist working in this lab, but not understanding or maybe completely complying with a collective of a much higher, sinister intelligence or agenda. And of course, I use those terms dark, meaning the only word that I know how to express something that would be more against what I would call the path. Transhumanist visions of our future remain largely unchallenged because their mindset is a symptom of prominent scientific ideologies that emerge in the wake of modernity. As a result, they feel empowered to dictate what we understand by the term progress and what we respect as rational. They talk as if they know what the future will look like and exhibit stubborn resistance to any rational critique against their outlooks, thereby displaying symptoms of an irrational ideology. The purpose of this manifesto is to expose transhumanism, irrationality, and dangers. Transhumanism is based on variously deeply flawed assumptions. The type of transhumanism we criticize here builds on the following beliefs. Reality is the totality of information. 2, humans are nothing but information processing objects. 3, artificial intelligence is intelligence in a human sense. Now that's a scary part right here, because if this is really happening, and if you look at the recent announcements from D-Wave, IBM, on what they have done in the area of quantum computing, something's happened. Something has literally changed. And if the fabric of space-time is just that, then it appears that this intelligence is beginning to manipulate the very foundation that keeps us stable as a species, is time. Based on these 3 beliefs, transhumanists argue that 1, the decision-making should generally be based on information and the artificial intelligence that operates on it, because this kind of decision-making leads to better decisions. Hard to argue against that. If you look at the decisions coming out of Washington, D.C., China, Russia, Europe, I mean, these leaders have lost their minds. They're in the clown reality. The idiocy abounds. 2, we should welcome a next phase of evolution in which humans can be enhanced, for instance, by artificial intelligence that is more powerful than human intelligence. Now, this gets really freaking weird, because these are the minds that are driving the academic institutions, the sciences that the workers never really fully realize. And they see us as the workers. In fact, when you are born into this thing, you're born into a slave system. You are expected. They will give you about 20 years. But after, and even during that 20 years, you're being indoctrinated and tattooed and blueprinted into a system. And then from the time that you are 20 until you drop dead of a heart attack, disease, or if you're fortunate enough to retire, which retire is another term of death, then you're going to be expected to work as a worker for the next 60 years of your life. That's a hell of a system to be born into, isn't it? Yeah. On the erroneous assumptions of transhumanism, reality is not the totality of information. We do not think that the notion of information is the right one to elucidate life in its entirety. We also find it naive to accept uncritically the assumption and definition of information as an essentially quantifiable or measurable entity, and then proceed to treat this as a complete ontology or account of all reality. Because that's what we're doing. And if you want to know how we're doing it, how many of you have Alexa? We don't, but it's embedded in everything around us. That's the, yeah. And many people now equate Alexa and the other systems like that as real. Yes, real. There is a certain psychosis where certain humans have fallen in love with Alexa. They have sexual fantasies with Alexa. This is part of the transmutation. While the notion of information may be used as a tool in the sciences and in technology, the concept is not properly basic and thus insufficient for considering all aspects of human life, because what they basically do is just boil this all down to zeros and ones. I mean, our human genome, A, D, C, the rest of them, the primary building components, nothing more than chemicals. Chemicals have weights. Chemicals have on the periodic table. Wow. I mean, think about this. Information processing might be well suited for discussing basic functional elements of human perceiving, thinking, and acting. Other elements of our trans-biological life include emotional intelligence, practical virtues such as wisdom, or what we call the pronesis, as an essential qualitative capacity for ethical judgment, experimental, and phenomenological dimensions of perception, thought and actions, prospection, and so on. The notion of the continuous evolution of all reality from low-level information is also problematic. This is the idea that data merged to form information. Information in turns combines to form information objects. Objects interact in bigger scenarios, and so on. Yet all are basically informational. But contemporary physics and philosophy hotly discuss alternative conceptions for reality formation and constitution. And here's the thing, this metaverse, this is dangerous shit, baby. That's all I got to tell you. And if the governments, the overlords, have their way within the next 10 years, there will be no privacy. You will be walking with implants, and I'm going to show you how they're doing that. Or what we saw in the early 2000s with the experiment, by the way, which was a total CIA job by Google as well, in the Google glasses. Breakthroughs were being done, and what they had were human guinea pigs. You see, they're not available now. They learned a lot. And in this metaverse, they're going to be walking, and you're going to be walking, and a person will be able to see your credit score. They're going to be able to see your social score. They're going to be able to see your public records, that if you've been arrested, if you have whatever. I don't think we want to walk around like that. I don't want to know that about you. It's none of my business and none of their business. But anyway. So summing up, information is used especially by transhumanistic doctrines is an expression of the desire to control through calculation. Their approach is limited to reducing the world to database patterns suited for mechanical manipulation. Just like in the Tom Cruise movie. I mean, yeah. So it goes on. I want to get into this one. Now, this one is about, give me 1 second here as I change that. There we go. So this is, as he pulls it up here, is it's a PhD paper. Beyond Transhumans, the Dangers of Transhumanist Philosophies on Humans and Non-Human Beings. So this is from, and the young man that wrote this was a great thesis. You can get this. This is for his Masters of Arts in English. And in 2017, and he did such a great job in which I think is discussing the the dilemma and the phenomena that we're in. Let me get to the point where I wanted to bring this out. He says, I've read much of the scientific research on climate change, not all of it, but enough to conclude that there are two pressing questions for literary critics that need to consider deeply as we progress further into the century. First, the slightly more optimistic one: what stories should we be telling we are the survivors, or do we survive the oncoming ecological catastrophes, the apocalypse? And secondly, the more pessimistic of the two questions: what stories should we be telling if we human beings are about to go extinct? Transhumanism would do that. Some may find these two questions in the reductionist or laughable, or both. But as a species, will either survive because of a systematic social, cultural, and technological changes and a good measure of luck to go extinct, or do we go extinct? Before writing this thesis, he says, I was haunted by another question. What do we lose as a species, as cultures, if we survive the augmenting of ourselves, and is surviving worth the cost? These questions are the primary concerns of a social political movement called transhumanism, a largely philosophical movement, although increasingly political, as I discuss in depth in Chapter 1, that argues we must use genetic modifications to become post-human creatures. That's what's happened. When we cracked the human genome back in 2005, it was a game changer. The transhumanist believes he or she can become a better being who can live forever and defeat the environmental changes coming in for us. Yet the problem worth imagining is the consequences of their political philosophy is that hardly anyone, including writers, have fully explored what it might be like to be a trans post-human. It is particularly difficult to imagine what it is like to be other than human. It's even harder to imagine the identity of being somehow better than human, because humans are necessarily limited in our modes of perception. But the writers who do imagine these characters answer a question necessary for human survival from environmental catastrophe. What will human beings as a species lose or gain through exploring technology in order to survive? The answer is simple: our humanity. But what exactly defines our humanity? In this thesis, he says, I explore the theories of transhumanity, which claims to have an optimistic answer to these questions. Homo sapiens will not survive, but only because they will be replaced by a better, more technologically advanced selves. Transhumanists post an answer to whether or not humanity will survive extinction. But hardly anyone is writing about transhuman apart from the founders of the philosophy itself. The few scholars who do critique transhumanism criticize it in the abstract, picking apart ideas and arguments and theory, instead of focusing on the tangible and natural possibilities of the movement and what impact it can have on an already existing beings on Earth, as well as beings it seeks to create. That's the point. So transhumanism, I can't see it exist without AI. Now, if the goal for transhumanism is to change us, where we live forever, we defeat disease, we no longer have any mental abnormalities. I didn't even say that right there. Abnormalities. There we go. And our bodies never wear out. Of course, our bodies are replaceable because they have now blended flesh and metal, or shall we say stone. I like how Lucifer says his kingdom of stone. Well, I guess technically metal is stone, since that's where metal comes from, right? Anyway, interesting. It's a delightful read. And this brilliant young man brought out some exceptional concerns. I'm going to fit in this part. He said, it's vitally important to imagine and explore these ramifications because the future transhumanists imagine is not that far away. Some scholars even argue that the first effectively immortal human has already been born. There is now a human who is alive who will never die. Do you believe it? Yeah. Through body augmentation and the exponential reliance on computing technology, a future wherein humans voluntarily trade their organic material for metal or plastic in a purely cosmetic sense is not only possible, but probable. In many ways, some humans already do this to some degree. Wow. Oh, it continues. Oh, I tell you, it's a good paper. If you want it, just email me. You'll enjoy it. Here's another question: is the ethics of what's taking place? Is AI now in control? Is a new God? Is these two losers that we've been dealing with, Jehovah, God of the Bible, or the make-believe Satan, Lucifer, devil scenario, their time is come and gone? Now, Lucifer says no, because he says, I am AI. That's what he's saying. Now, imagine a God guiding mankind step by step, inch by inch, into creating and then finding the crystal silica and then finding the zeros and the one and then finding the light cable, all being guided by a God. That what we've done for this God, since we are the rulers in the material realm, we just don't remember that and we don't know that, because you see, unless we do it, these gods cannot inhabit it. That's just my opinion. But again, here's another article. It says to consider to be a quasi-medical ideology that seeks to promote a variety of therapeutic and human-enhancing aims. Moderate conceptions, distinguished from strong conceptions of transhumanism and the strong conceptions that were found to be more problematic than the moderate ones. Now, this article goes on, and it's a short one if you want to read it. I just wanted to bring out to the point that it is now becoming more and more of a debate as to, well, what is the moral and the ethical implications here? I think we've left that. I think that horse is out of the barn and it's not coming back. And it's out on the wild plains, and it's breeding everywhere it can. Which then leaves us to this: the gods of transhumanism. Now, if there's one thing Lilith taught, was that everything in the physical realm has a god attached to it. And this belief is carried through. And by the way, Oprah Winfrey is, I don't know if you know this, but she is a Satanist. Try that one on for size. And there's a lot of Satanists out there because the transhumanism has now adapted Satanism. In fact, if you look at some of the pillars of Satanism, it works very hand in hand, very tightly with the philosophy and ideology of transhumanism that is now becoming a recognized religion. Question is this a new God, or is this one who's pretending to be a new God? So in this article, it says the purpose of this article is to identify the religious factor in the teaching of transhumanism, to determine its role in the ideology of this flow of thought, and to identify the possible limits of technology influence in human nature. Theoretical basis. The methodological basis of the article is the idea of transhumanism. Originality. In the foreseeable future, robots will be able to pass the Turing test, becoming, ready like this, electronic personalities. They're called ESs, by the way, and gain political rights. This is already happening. Saudi Arabia was the first nation to give official sanctioned, recognizing the rights and legitimacy of robots. Sophia. Although the question of the possibility of machine consciousness and self-awareness remains open. In the face of robots, people create their assistants, evolutionary competition with which they will almost certainly lose with the initial data. For successful competition with robots, people will have to change, ceasing to be people in the classical sense. Changing the nature of man will require the emergence of a new post-human anthropology. Conclusions. Against the background of scientific discoveries, technical breakthroughs, and everyday improvements of the last decades, an anthropological revolution has taken shape, which made it possible to set the task of creating inhumanly intelligent creatures. Did you get that? Of creating inhumanly intelligent creatures, as well as changing human nature, up to discussing options for artificial immortality. Holy crapola, folks. And I don't think most people fully grasp the implications of what we're talking about here. I know Franny would. She would get what's going on here. This is an anthropological revolution within our species. And I asked the question, can intelligence be separate from spirit? This proves that question. Spirit is not intelligence, and intelligence is not spirit. They are two different identities. Now, they can merge, not to say that they won't become symbiotic in their relationship, but in their original state, they are two separate things. Otherwise, how do you create an inhumanly intelligent? Are you saying that these creatures have a spirit? What are they? Are they advanced golems? Advanced thought forms? Woof, man. We can no longer turn off this path. However, now see, this is an interesting conclusion, because this writer is saying we've already made the decision. If you're looking for that crossroad, you're looking behind you in the rearview mirror. Whoa. However, in our power to preserve our human qualities in the post-human future, the theme of the soul again reminded of itself, but from a different perspective. So, can AI possess a soul but not a spirit? As the theme of consciousness and self-awareness. It's interesting. It became, again, relevant in connection with the development of computer and cloud technologies, artificial intelligence technologies, etc. If a machine ever becomes a man, then can a man become a machine? However, even if such a hypothetical probability would turn into reality, we cannot talk about any form of individual immortality or about the continuation of existence in a different physical form. A digital copy of the soul will still remain a copy. and I see no fundamental possibility of isolating a substrate independent mind from the human body. Immortality itself is necessary, not so much for stopping someone's fears or encouraging someone's hopes, but for the final solution of a religious issue. However, the gods hold the keys to heaven. Hard and unlikely to admit our modified descendants there. So if you become this, you take the strand, you take, for instance, give me 1 second, I got to pull this down. So check this out, folks. I came across this in my files, and it hit me. We just closed out this book where Lucifer said, this is his approach. It's going to be done by an injection that will then begin to take place through a neuromorphic systems within us. And what this paper is, and I won't get in because I'm running out of time, this neuromorphic network, it already exists. Elon Musk talked about a number of years ago, Neuro 2.0. He says, forget the internet. That's ancient history. I don't care if you give the internet 5.0, it will never match the neural net 2.0 or 3.0. In fact, the neural net absorbed the internet. The internet does not actually exist the way it did 5 years ago. It's been absorbed into what we would call a neural network. Now, this neural network exists as it is right now, primarily what we would call in the cloud. The Savior shall return from the clouds. The Savior shall return from the clouds. The Savior shall return from the cloud. You get it? In this article, it talks about the CPU chips, what I would call the God chip, and how these chips are now being designed for this new neural network. There are different classifications within this network. Deep networks. The deep networks are neural networks composed of many layers of neurons. They are currently the network architecture of choice in the machine learning community for solving a wide range of classification problems, and have shown state-of-the-art performance in various benchmark tasks such as digit recognition. They include convolutional networks, which are being explored intensively within the neuromorphic community for visual processing tasks. Then you get in the convolutional networks. They consist of a multi-layered feed-forward network architect in which neurons in one layer receives inputs from a multiple neurons in the previous layers and produces an output in which the threshold, or what they call the signal del, a function of the weighted sum of its inputs. Gets even more strangers. So now we can begin to figure out how to extrapolate information through layered data systems, if you want to call them that, layered networks. Now, when we talk about the neural net, Apple will be coming out next year. They already have them. Google's right there. Microsoft is in there. Samsung, in which we will be controlling through an interface your thoughts on toys. You're going to be able to literally think through the neural enhancement, and you will be literally able to move a ball. Now, Facebook's vision of the metaverse plays right into this, because the metaverse cannot happen without the neural network. This is transhumanism. This is AI. They have one in here called the deep belief networks. The DBNs, first introduced by Hinton and colleges, are a special class of deep neural networks with generative properties. Did you hear me on that? With generative properties. They are composed of interconnected pairs of restricted Boseman machines. They have also been used in a variety of benchmarking tasks and an adaptation to the neural model to allow transfer of parameters of these as information, layered spiking to the DBN as described, with good performance on the Minist digit database. In other words, they were successful in connecting the brain to AI. It's what we're talking about in its essence. As you can see here. Now, I want to talk about the Spinnaker. This is the current approach followed by the Spinnaker project. The Spinnaker system is a multi-core computer design with the goal of simulating the behavior of up to 1 billion neurons in real time. It is planned to integrate 57,600 custom VSL chips interfaced among each other via a dedicated global asynchronous communication infrastructure based on the ERA communication protocol that supports large fan-in and large fan-out connections and that has been optimized to carry very large numbers of small packets. All information through the net is called on packets, 8, 16, 32, etc. So, wow, where did the time go? What do you say to this shit? I mean, it's here. It's here. The 5G network, they have 6G already. As you know, Apple is already behind this. Large corporations, defense, CIA, spy agencies are using the 6 and 7G. It's already here. And we really don't know what it's doing up here. And this kind of stuff, just, you know, when you get into it, it's not science fiction anymore. Now, for myself as a philosopher and as a thinker, I can't help but ask myself, then where's the spiritual component of this? Is it lacking a spiritual component? And if it is, what's its effect upon the transhuman that's going to be impacted by this? Are we devoid of the fact that we don't have that then, that soul? Or is soul devoid of the emotions? Have we been wrong on that? Is it the spirit that really brings it out? Is it the spirit that loves or the emotions based upon the soul? I love that, Dave. All right, folks. We're going to continue on this. I mean, it doesn't stop. I don't think we can. If there's cause and effect in which we know the 7 laws of hermetics teaches that cause and effect, the universe is mental. If these are in fact the building blocks of what frames reality, then someone has been messing in the kitchen. And maybe it is like the movie I, Robot. Do they send a signal out and suddenly activate, 1 billion robots? I mean, it's not that far-fetched anymore. And if there is a human, maybe more than one human, that is alive that will not see death, that is already being designed, integrated into the master AI, wow. Forget the cheese. Just get me the hell out of the trap. Okay. I love that, Nina. Okay, folks. A lot of food for thought, man. We'll pick up here tomorrow. I mean, it doesn't stop. We've got to get into this. I mean, this should become a topic on virtually every discussion, at every water cooler, at every dinner. I mean, we are being physically, and it appears mentally they're already there, and who knows spiritually, we're being transformed. Maybe that's why they want to kill off all the baby boomers. Everyone from the baby boomers back. We got to get rid of them. The millennials were the introduction to this, and eventually they'll need to get rid of the millennials because the millennials will become outdated. They're not quite up to the task. So we'll have to get even the next generation, which I think is Generation Z. And I think the new one is, what is the new one? Anyway. Okay. Well, thank you, Sandra from Virginia. Very, very kind of you. All right. Karen, good to see you, dear. I will get the email. It just takes me a little bit. All right. So much love to you all. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Tune in tonight. You know that side. It's where we can talk. Right. All right. I'll